over here. And I'm looking at her and I go, look at me rainbow. Look at me rainbow.
Screw, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, it needs batteries. Oh, that's it.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right. Oh, sorry. Just compose ourselves because we're actually live, right? Oh, I love it. G'day and welcome back to another edition of the Good Men Project. And today I am super pumped, right? I've got my bestie Shorty here. And I tell you what, I gotta share it, right? I gotta go. I gotta do it. So I said to Shorty before we got on, because we had to have a bit of a chat and catch up because I had to race off to the toilet. But I didn't know you could hear it from over there. Anyway.
And what was the first thing I said when you came back?
How's my prostate? Oh, goodness gracious.
And welcome.
Yes, exactly that. And welcome to another edition of the Good Men Project. Well, look, seriously, Shorty, I expect nothing less than you and I to have a good laugh tonight because we've had to spend a fair bit of time together. But firstly, for those that don't know you, who is James Short, aka Shorty?
Oh, this is a really good question. AKA Shorty. I am a heartfelt man who's having a crack, who is a loving husband, amazing dad. Sometimes I was a past endurance athlete, performance coach, best mate to Scotty Carson, and ready to have some fun.
I love that. And you know, like literally when I wrote up the bit of the write-up today, you know, I've put in your bio, but I didn't really care about your bio because it's your heart that I love so much. It's your heart. Like we talk regularly, you know, we had the opportunity of Business to Smiles and XYZ, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of different adventures. But living, so, like, just I'm gonna overshare quickly right now. Just I'm sorry for those that are seeing this for the first time. This is Shorty and I with a bit of a bromance. But when we first met, it was one of the most amazing things because we'd spent a good 12 months at least building up a relationship online and creating connection and doing amazing things for both of our communities. And then we finally meet. That was magic. So just a little bit of a share in that.
So that was a monumental time when obviously what had happened up in I'm from Lennox Head up in Northern Rivers of New South Wales in Australia, where we experienced some of the worst floods ever. And we were there to support and just get out into the community. And so we'd been arranging this run where we were running from Evans Head to Lismore, and we were going to meet up at Evans Head, and we had a motorhome. And anyway, I'm knocking on the door and out out pops from the bathroom this 6'4" giant of a man. And I am scared shitless. I jumped from one end to the van to another. It was hilarious. Papa Smurf Papa's got it on video, so go and check it out. It's Alan Stevens. It's just priceless. But then the biggest hug that we've ever had, it was heartfelt, loving, and everything in between. It was the biggest scare, but also one of the biggest highs as well.
and look, and that's something like it's, you know, like I'm focusing on here on connection and good men and sharing the stories, right? The adventures that we went on, and look, I'm sure there'll be more to come, but that created lifelong memories and
connection.
Heart connection. You know, and there was a lot of discomfort in a lot of the things we have done, right? Stepping into difficult conversations with a lot of people, going up to Lismore after the floods. I'll never forget the first time that we get there and we're about to do a presentation with the Sox. And the very first guy I speak to, g'day, mate, how are you? I just want to say thanks for doing your best right now. And he's like, what? I said, I just want to say thanks for doing your best right now. I know things are tough. And you know, and he wasn't ready to have a conversation. basically told me where to go. And then we went out to sort of catch up with everybody, a bit of a talk before we took off on a run from Evans Head to Lismore. And he was over at the washing machines, and I walked over and I said, listen, mate, I said, I just want to say sorry. I just, I come here to connect with you, and I'm sorry I got it wrong. I got something from my heart to yours, a pair of socks. And that created a dialogue that opened up my heart and everybody else's heart. So that was extraordinary. So I am going to go straight into this adventure that you and I had for there, because it was such a heartfelt connection. I remember walking the streets of Lismore, and even the high school, the living school. Wow, what an epic journey! So, but I'm going to throw it over to you to have a bit of a chat about that, because I think that's important.
So there's a couple of things on that. Let's keep it to Lismore, and then we'll come back to the living school. So, obviously there was so much trauma going through there, and people homeless and people in shelters and so forth. So that's where we hung out. We went through from shelter to shelter and just hung out with people in the soup kitchens, handing out food and just around the tables and just chatting to the people who had lost everything in the floods, and just to hear their stories and just to support that. And I think that was a huge thing where they hadn't felt heard before. Yes, there was a lot of anger and frustration, but also appreciation that someone is there taking the time and sharing the socks, sharing the story, but also hearing them. And that was beautiful because, there was some wild stories, but you could just see the smiles on their faces. And then when we went back again and people actually remembered us, it was just like, and even to today, I still see the socks around because I'm in and out of Lismore. I still see the socks and the school kids wearing them and so forth. It was absolutely magic. And they were really big days. I mean, to hold the space for all those people, to chat to them, it was so rewarding, so impactful, but also the huge energy zapper. But you could just go to bed that night and just fully appreciate the guys that we were with, the family that were around, and also ourselves of what we had and the impact that we made. So it was true. It will never be forgotten. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Just before we go to living school, just want to say a quick g'day to Steve Whittle. Thank you for popping up, mate. Really appreciate it. Listen, I hope you get to know Shorty quite well. Shorty's a good man with a big heart, and we're actually sharing a little bit about our adventure. Now, going into the town and speaking to everybody, it's a real eye-opener in human spirit and the opportunity around actually listening to people and having their stories told. We listened to a lot. There was 800 odd pairs of socks we handed out during those days, and to hear how much a smile made a difference in absolute tragedy. We went into the darkest of places in Lismore. We weren't knocking around in just the soup kitchens and up the top. We were down in the place where the people that needed the most support were. And being there for me was to be welcomed when they're dealing with everything was such a privilege, So, yeah, I'll never. That's a big piece of my heart is in there with that and with everyone from Lismore.
Yeah, so true, so true. And it when you look back on it, and then obviously having the where my kids were at the school at that time, which was at the living school, and they just got annihilated. They lost their primary school. The secondary school got up to the second floor. It was just out of this world. You can't even fathom it. And obviously helped with the cleanup. And then obviously they lost all the sporting equipment. So we put the call out and we raised enough money and got enough support to help them to replace their sporting equipment. And when we dropped that off and to see the smiles, to see the kicking the footies and the soccer balls and the cricket pads and everything like that, it was just such a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to see those smiles. And then we went into the classrooms and had chat to the kids, and it was just like, and see them all wearing the socks all at once and hearing the stories and finding out what made them smile and all the different interpretations of what that meant to them. Oh, that was priceless. That was huge.
What was your favorite memory there? Because you spoke to the senior school and I spoke to the primary school or living school. Just a quick one, and we're going to get to this lady in a second. Hi, Shorty, and I love it, Brom. We'll share that story in a sec, which is beautiful. But what was your favorite memory? Now, I'm going to share mine because there was a moment that when I was speaking to the primary school kids, one of the opportunities is some of them couldn't write, right? Awesome. So let's draw a smile on a piece of paper. Everyone drew a smile on a piece of paper. And then they drew the things that made them smile around that. And then we gave all the kids a pair of socks each. And it was epic. But it was one little girl that just got right into my heart. She waited for everybody to get their socks. She's come up. She got the pair and she goes, sorry, Scott, are you going to this school? I said, why is that, honey? She goes, well, my best friend goes there. I really think she could do with a pair of socks. She's lost everything. And she was like 6, maybe 7 years old. And I've got sweaty. I said, that's the most kindest thing I've been asked for today. That you care so much about your friends. You want me to go and share a smile with her. I said, is it okay if I give you a pair of socks to gift to her? She goes, really? I said, yeah. And that stuck with me, right? Just that beautiful essence of this has been really good for me. This is something that's made me feel good in a dark time. I'm going to give that love forward. And that's just stunning. I'll never forget that. What happened for you at the school? I know there's so many moments, right?
So many moments. And I guess one of the things is them to actually have those conversations and to open up and also saying, this would be a beautiful gift for my mom or for my dad or for my siblings. So the conversations that we had, and even for the teachers, seeing the teachers see the kids open up and talk about it, that was huge, because even the teachers were going through the trauma. Even the teachers had family affected, themselves affected, and then they were trying to hold space for the kids. So it was such a rippling effect across students, teachers, support workers. It was pretty epic to see all those smiles on their faces. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's something we don't often consider when we're talking about schools. Right, we often talk about the kids and their experience. What's the teacher's experience? How are we supporting them to have the conversations? How are we supporting them so that they can do more with the kids? Right? You bring up a really huge point there, Shorty. So, just heading back into Lismore after that. Now, there's one little story I want to share because we went back 10 days later and we're up and around this. I can smile about so many little stories, right? But this one was, we went back up to the main street where they had a lot of services. Anyway, went up to a lady serving coffee for free, and walked up to her, and I've just gone, well, I still can't get the image out of you in your jeans with the socks over the top of the jeans up. Like trendoid or what? Anyway, I'm just picturing walking back up to the coffee machine, and that's what I can remember. Anyway, so I get up to the lady, and the coffee machine. So I just want to say thank you for doing your best right now. I've got a bit of a gift from my heart to yours, and I put the socks out, and she goes, I've actually got a pair. She says, my daughter come home from school and decided I needed them more than she did, and I'm like, boom, boom, kaboom. And I'm like, if that doesn't hit you in the heart, what's going to? So I said, listen, if it's okay with you, I'll gift you a pair to give her. She's that'd be awesome. So that's Lismore. So we've had a lot of fun, a lot of different adventures.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of conversations. We've sat here we're challenging each other in life. But one of the things I adore about you that's helped me be a better man is our conversations around fatherhood, right? I want to really step into that, and maybe at some point, if people are interested, there's a heap of stuff on the Business of Smiles YouTube channel where Shorty and I have talked about a lot of things. Jump on there and have a listen, because there's some great stuff. But fatherhood, Shorty, such a big part of your life, and I love the way you do it. Talk to us about fatherhood.
I'll go back in order to go forward to give some context around why it's so important to me. So I was very fortunate enough for my dad to leave when I was 5, and growing up through that, seeing the communication breakdown that he had with my mum and then his second wife, taught me a lot of what not to do, and which was great. And so I forever thank him, and I fully appreciate that, because that set the model of, okay, well, that didn't work for me. I'll take that on, and how can I then reframe that into my kids? And so dad left. It's really interesting how it all worked, right? Because dad left when I was 5, but obviously then with the courts had to run over there every second weekend with stepbrothers and so forth and so forth. And then when I met Nat, I was 21, my wife, been together for 28 years. When I met Nat, she had a daughter, Riley, who was 4. And so immediately became a stepdad. And so it's like, cool. All right, take that lesson. And I've obviously done a bit of work on myself. Try to work on that trauma. But reframe that, and to be, obviously not a replacement for Riley's dad, because we all still get along. He's come away on holidays with us, and, he's a great guy, but to be there as a support stepfather. And then came along, obviously, Lily, my daughter, who's now 17, and Tiger, who's my son, who's 15. And I think having that experience early with Riley has been huge, and then getting really clear of the type of father that I want to be for Lily and Tiger as well has really helped shaped fatherhood for me, and has really helped me, I believe, just step in and own that role, which I'm very proud of.
Oh, there's so much more to open up here, which I adore, right? Because being a stepfather is a challenge, right? Because they've always got the get out of jail free card. You're not my dad. Don't tell me what to do, right? So navigating things as a stepfather can be a challenge. What advice would you give to men navigating that challenge right now?
I think it really stems back to the conversations and what type of, what do we want from the mother? What do we want from the stepfather to have to support this child? Because what's not usually talked about is roles and responsibilities, boundaries, expectations, and so forth. And I remember, I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this, back when we were first dating, we were talking about obviously families, and if we had a baby together, Nat and I, what color would we paint the room? And she would say one color, and I would say another color. And she said, well, what happens if you disagree? I said, well, how about we compromise? She goes, what's that? So then it's looking at then, how do we actually then, if you want pink and I want blue, well, how about green? And so these are the conversations I think it's so important to have up front around, how do we compromise? What are those expectations? What do you want to be? What do you want your role to be as a stepfather? Is the father still in their lives? If the father isn't in their lives, what role do you want the mother of the child for you to be as the stepfather? So once again, it comes back to the communication and those expectations. And you never replace the father. So you never replace the father. For me, that's my view, my belief. It's how do you support?
Boom, 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 boom. Too many bombs going off right there, right? Because that's the big one. How do you support the father, right? Because that is such an important part, right? You're in this together. It doesn't. Right?
What's best for the kid?
100%. Chunk it up, right? One of the greatest things that you taught me, right? Chunk it up. Chunk it up. What's the highest value we can get to? What is the highest point of the mountain that we're trying to achieve? Let's focus on that, and then see what we need to do to create that. We want to create a loving family where everybody feels supported. Great. How do we do that? Well, we've got to support the kids to give them the best opportunities. Who are the people involved in order to support the kids? Stepfather, father, mother, stepfather. Okay, great. We support those people because that supports our kids. Yes, we've got to challenge the actions every now and then, but how can we compromise to get a green room rather than pink and a blue and end up in a situation where one's not winning? And I love that. You know, like it's.
And I think just on that, like I think it's really important is one for me is, and that's why I've done a bunch of work on myself around this, and is what were my beliefs around parenthood? What were my beliefs around fatherhood? What beliefs helped me and what beliefs hindered me, and then work on that. You know, I remember a classic example, like, God, I love it dearly, is that when we were first going out for dinners, Nat and I used to look at the price of the menu every time, and I go, oh, God, it's expensive. God, it's expensive. God. And she had, babe, listen, if it's too expensive, we can go somewhere else. I said, no, it's not too expensive. Well, stop complaining about the price. But it was so subconscious that I was doing this. And I didn't even realize it was a belief I was running, because where did I pick that up from? Good old mumsy. And so it's the ability to actually have a think about what are the patterns that I was running, to actually step back and go, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Now I can work on it and release that. And it's the same thing with parenthood as well.
I just thank you for bringing that to my attention. Right? Let's grab that, because there's so many things that people get triggered by it. Right? If you change the way you see that, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Like, oh, I feel something. What do I need to learn right now? Right? Imagine you sat in a restaurant. Your subconscious is going, no, I can't afford it, because you grew up single mum, so you've got all the opportunities around money, and, you know, I know these well. So where do we fit? How do we go? Hang on a sec. What do I need to learn here? Take responsibility. Right? What can I do better? And I think that's the big one. What can I do better? So awesome. Give me 3 keys to fatherhood. 3 keys to better communication as a father.
I was going to say communication. I'm just, it always comes back for that to me is communication with, so with yourself. So I think that's a really big thing. So there's 2 parts in that, is the internal communication. So what you're saying to yourself. So those patterns, those beliefs that you're running around that, around your internal dialogue, that lovely little voice around being a father, all those patterns that you may be running. Then the external communication of how you're communicating to others. So your partner, your kids, is, you know, what are you saying? What are you not saying? Your nonverbal communication. Then how is that being interpreted with your partner, with your kids, and so forth? And forever learning, because as we know, kids are great teachers. Our kids are always teaching us and always calling us out on our stuff, which is great. So it's the ability to not react and appreciate it and go, thank you, I'll take that on board.
I love it. I'm going to dive into something, because I think this is something that is in my world, and I'm pretty confident in yours. The power of honesty in a relationship with your kids. I feel a lot of people hold back in the aspect that they aren't quite sure. You know, they're worried about the projection of their past and the opportunities that have happened to them. Being honest about things in life, how important is that?
I think it's very important. I think it also drives from a lesson. It also drives from context. So, and it's also where the questions take you. So it's the ability to find out, for me, where is those questions coming from? Why, you know, are you curious about this, or is someone else curious about this? And let's explore that together. So I think it's definitely important, and it's then how it's handled and how it's communicated, because it also provides context for the kids as well, which is super important.
And us, right? So if the kids ask you a question, don't just answer it. ask more questions around it. That's a great question. Can I get an understanding about how that question came about? What's happened that question's become important? Because if I can
Spot
understand
on.
that, then I can answer it better for you, right? Which you can, right? So all of a sudden gives them responsibility of projection, and it creates a different dialogue. So,
Yep.
love that, Shorty. Awesome. So I'm going to change pace a little bit. And for me, and I'm going to put words in your mouth because I think you focus on what it means to be a good human, right? More than a good man. However, there's different traits that men have than females have, and it's just the way it is, right? What do you think are the traits of a good man?
Obviously, communication, understanding, awareness, protection, heart, and vision.
You're huge on communication. I think it's one of your best qualities in what you provide for so many people in creating dialogue that creates understanding, right? Um, Great communication allows for to be seen, heard, and understood, which is just extraordinary. What are the keys to good communication?
Ooh, 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 ah. Space is one of the big things I believe in communication. And let's put some context around that. A lot of the times when we're in communication back and forth, we're usually conjuring up a rebuttal or an answer before the other person's finished, rather actually getting clear on what that person is trying to say. From my experience, usually when you ask better questions, you get better results or you get better communication. So when you can ask better questions, you can go deeper to find out what really is behind the question, not just or the statement. You can go a little bit deeper and find out what that is what's important to that person. And then by creating space in a response allows you to sink in that information and not just have a knee-jerk reaction. Because when you create space, you actually allow that person to be heard, and then you can actually either ask a question or you can continue the dialogue. Obviously, with that is the listening component, asking good quality questions, and just be investigative rather than having to provide all the answers. I'm a strong believer of you can still achieve a specific outcome by asking questions rather than telling.
Boom. And boom. It's just so space is something for me that like quite often you and I have a very similar opportunity around this. We're happy to sit in silence, right? We're happy to sit there and
Love it.
see
Love it.
what comes up, right? And I'm not going to move until something comes up. So we're going to stay in it. But I do like you know how much I love to bring people into the. Oh no, I've just done it and I can't. Is that on? Yeah. Okay. Oh, why am I not? Come on, come back out. Oh no, I've lost the screen. Okay. There we go, back. All right.
It's beautiful, Steve.
I truly appreciate descriptions of good men, particularly when they highlight communication. In a society that often encourages men to be strong yet silent, how can we empower them to speak openly, stand confidently, and sure their voices are heard? Now, I'm going to dance with this with Shorty on that. And Steve, thank you so much
Love
for
to.
this because this is something that both Shorty and I are very passionate about. I'm going to lean into you, Shorty. How can we empower them to speak openly and stand confidently and ensure their voices are heard?
I think it's getting really clear on what the outcome is rather than just talking for talking's sake. And this is where I said vision of what is the clear outcome that you want to achieve in certain conversations. And this is where the importance of things like chunking up. What is this for the higher purpose? And sometimes silence is a form of silence is a form of communication. And if you look into certain types of communications and where you can ask a question or where you can interject or when you can be actually silent, actually speaks louder than words sometimes. So once again, it's coming back to, yes, it's important for men to be heard, but in what context and what capacity and in what environment? And there are so many variables when it comes to that. So I believe it's the ability of, well, what is the clear outcome that we want to achieve here? And if we were to reverse engineer that, what will those steps look like? And what would be the best possible way to get there so we can create a win-win outcome?
Dancing with all that information into how I work these days, right? And chunking it up, right? And being very clear on the trying to create an outcome, right? So Steve, I run Smiles for Life dinners where men come in and we have conversations. Now they're a guided conversation. So what we're looking to do is to help men have conversations, practice having heart conversations. I always start with a topic. The last topic was addiction. And what we do is we sit there and we break it down. What is addiction? What kind of addictions are there? Is there any categories we need to put in addictions into? And what we actually spoke about was emotional, behavioral, and substance addictions. And then we put things into categories. What that allowed is and when each one, like different addictions came up, we go, okay, which category does it go into? Then that created a difference in opinion. And then we explore that. We have a room where there's no right or wrong. Your opinion is valued, and let's explore it. What we're doing is building trust in that. So I want to go back to Shorty, where we talked about space. Where are our spaces to practice it? We value men to go to work and earn money and do those amazing things. And dads these days are 3 times more present than the generation before us. So we've got all these things going on, but where is the investment, both time and financial, in making these places happen? Where are we having these conversations? Shorty, you got something to say to that?
Yeah. So what I heard from you, particularly with the Smiles for Life dinner, is that you created a framework.
Correct.
You created a framework that allowed the gentleman to go through and answer the questions based on their views, their beliefs, which is totally fine, which is beautiful. Allow them to go and follow that framework. And I think it's super important for guys to have a framework to follow, because we're not taught communication. We're not taught how to communicate. We're just like, we're doing our best with the resources that we've got at that point in time. And so by helping that framework helps dialogue, it helps to communicate, because we're like, here's a question, let's answer it. Here's a question, let's answer it. Right? Where women are a little bit different, they will go all around and in and out and still have questions and answer everything in between and on that question as well. It's just usually how we're made up and how we're brought up of the two main between men and women communication styles. Where do we have these communications? We don't. And this is where the dinners that you're providing they're game changers, and they're so important and they're so needed, because to my knowledge, none of these conversations are being had. There's no framework or spaces to be provided outside Smiles for Life dinners.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Shorty, because you've been a part of the journey and you see what we're doing, and the ideology of every single conversation is that whoever's at the table leaves with a deeper understanding about whatever the topic is. That's a win. But there's three keys to those dinners. That's the courage, connection, and contribution, right? Courage to be there, courage to be authentic, courage to actually step in, right? And actually be involved. Connection. Let's connect to yourself, your story, what your knowledge is. Let's connect to the others of what their knowledge is, right? And then we create a collective connection of what we can grow together. But the single biggest key to all of these things is contribution. If you don't contribute, you don't have the value. But when you do, when you sit there and you ask for your opinion, and it's not right or wrong, just the opportunity. Okay, great idea. Has anyone got any different experiences? Okay, I challenge that because I've had this. Great. What do you think about that now? All of a sudden, we're learning how to communicate through being challenged. In the eyes of, I don't know, most people, it would be conflict. But when we're challenging a conversation and we do it in a healthy way where we hear each other, then we can create a new dialogue around what something could be. And the idea is every single man leaves with the opportunity to feel seen, heard, and have a different opinion about a certain topic because he's heard the voices of others. Shorty.
But you know what the difference though is there where you've said contribution versus conflict. Yep. Is that you've created a safe space for them, right? And that is the game changer, where they're not threatened, they're not violated, they're not in conflict because you've created that safe space. It's like, no, we're just having a conversation and we've just got two different viewpoints. There's no right or wrong. We're just two different viewpoints. Where outside of those safe spaces, war goes up into the cave. That's it. Let's punch on. And that's where those dinners are so important, because it creating that you've created that safe space, which is game changer.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Shorty. No, it wouldn't happen without you being a part of the journey, because it's all right. That's awesome. And I'm off topic, but that's okay. On topic at the same time. Squirrel.
That's how we roll.
God, we've been down some rabbit holes. I really want to take you down one, right? Because adversity is a part of life, right? You are going to have challenges. You don't know how good things are until you've had some bad things. And all of a sudden, you realize some good things are there. So I'm going to ask you to share with us a time in your life where adversity got the best of you, but you found a way to grow through it.
Yeah, we recently lost Nat's mum almost 2 years ago now, and that was a very hard time. She came up here and we looked after her for the last 6 months of her life, and helping her and more importantly helping Nat going through that was a challenge in relations to where do how do you obviously first time, like, how do you support, what do you do? And then seeing her and seeing that pain that she was experiencing, and also the grief as well, that was some, and then the kids as well, the impact there is, and then my own grief is that how do I support that? And that's a very adverse time for myself and also for the family, and how we got through that. And I don't think you ever get through that, but it gets lighter, because the memories will always be there, the love will always be there. But it's having those conversations and continually hit the healing journey, knowing that, okay, there's the scar will be there, but we've just got to keep on rubbing some pawpaw on it. And that can be, from conversations, that can be some healing work, that can be some, some beautiful times away together, honoring the memories, having conversations around those memories. I've got to share a funny story though. So we just did a weekend with Wim Hof, right? And for those who've done a weekend with Wim Hof, he's pretty out there. anyway, he loves the sticking the finger up, and Nat's mum was very similar. And I'll give you some context. At Nat's mum's funeral, we got everyone in the funeral parlor to get a photo with the bird. It was hilarious. It was beautiful. That was just who she was. So when we got photos with Wim, the first thing that Nat did was put the finger up, and we got that as the photo with Wim Hof.
Nothing like honouring her mum with.
And we shared the story. He goes, "Oh, I love her already." Yeah.
But isn't that part of the healing?
Exactly, sharing those stories, and exactly. Yeah.
And how much of that can be played into other parts, right? Where, yes, there's pain, but without love, there's no grief, right?
Yeah, experiencing those which will help you to experience the highs and vice versa.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep coming with the comments when they get thrown up. Male-dominated industries like construction, manufacturing, infrastructure are filled with great men, but stigma around men speaking openly about vulnerable topics remains strong. These individuals can be difficult to reach and are unlikely to engage through traditional outlets such as organised events or dinners. To truly make an impact, we need to bring solutions directly to these environments. Instead of expecting men to speak out safe places, we should aim to create safe spaces. 100%, Dave. Like, if I could have my way on every single site, there would be a man that would be there to listen. Right? Not a first mental health first aider. Someone who's experienced in dealing with all sorts of grief, pain, tragedy, that could sit there and support people to have the conversations they need to have in order to have their hearts lightened. I think that's a big one. Get me in, I'll come out, and it's pretty raw when I speak. I don't miss.
But I think it's more than that, though, mate. I think, Scotty, I think it's having someone there like someone needs to be there as first aid, but someone needs to be there as a coach or a counselor or whatever full time, because people will go up and down, left and right, and having there as a support person, I think it's so vital, because you just don't know what's happening in someone's personal life. You don't know what's happening on the work site. So having there as a full time, I just think, hopefully, I think it's changing. I hope businesses are getting more aware of the importance of having someone like that on site. And I think, this is an opportunity where if you do have a site like that, the return, if you look at it as a business return, is actually quite phenomenal, because the staff feel valued, the staff feel heard, the staff then are happier, they're more productive. The owners don't have to do all the emotional healing and the emotional listening and so forth. You've got a professional doing that, and then everyone can stay in their lanes, and everything grows, and the people are heard and healed. It's game changer.
Look, I'm hearing a lot of things right there, and employing people. I had 16 steel fixers that worked with me. Steve, I was a steel fixer before I got into this opportunity of supporting the hearts of men. Yeah. The amount of baggage that people bring to work, if we can help them unpack one thing, one big problem that they're dealing with at that moment in time, that will make such a difference to their ability to be able to do work. Such a difference. And I think, I think we're moving towards it. I think we're starting to understand the impact. We're in this amazing place right now where we're actually having these conversations. We're actually challenging the narrative and digging deeper into what's possible. And I know, Shorty, you do that with your business. Like, yes, you're a real estate coach, right? But how much of that is?
Well, that's what I do. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a good mate of mine who owns 2 real estate offices all up and down the mid-north coast with 250 staff, and I go around to each of his offices and do that. Sit, listen, support, support where they need it, at home, at work, wherever it is. And like speaking to a guy today, one of the offices is like, mid-40s, hadn't done anything like this before, is new. And it's just like, this is just mind blowing. I can just see the benefits of this, not just within the work environment, but with my kids and with my wife. And like, I said, wow. I said, cool. This is how it is. So yeah, it does make a massive impact.
Yeah, I love it. I'm just going to throw this out quickly. I love these lives. I always learn something new to support our mission. Keep up the great work. So to drop out. Hopefully we'll see you next time, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on, Steve. I really appreciate it. So, and that's that for me, Shorty, is what I love, right? It's you've been able to mix your passions, business and coaching and heart, right? Just bringing it back to the heart, bringing it back to what's important, helping people see what's important. Yeah, I just love it. We're getting to 45 minutes. I have a lot of what I want to talk to you about, but I think we'll come back another time and actually have some more, because I think adventure is such a big part of men's life and we don't look at that enough. And, like crazy ideas turned into crazy opportunities, and you know what? They work, totally. And then all of a sudden you're up and about. And that's something that I want to bring a panel in and talk about adventure. I'm going to ask you something that's I want you to consider. If you had one bit of advice to give to a man right now, what would that be?
Can I give 2?
No, 1. I want you to best. You only get to give me one. One bit of advice that's going to make a difference to a man today.
Is to journal. Is to get the things that are in your head that it's going round and round and round and put it down onto paper. Because so often we get stuck in our heads that we can't have clarity of how we move forward. But by when you're getting things out in your head, then you can get a clearer picture of what you can do next. And you'll see patterns, you will see recurring items that keep on coming up. And then you can actually create a bit of a game plan around that. But when we keep things in our heads, right, we don't have that clarity. We get that confusion. We get that overwhelmed sensation, and sometimes we feel like, well, how do we get out of this? But when we get all the stuff out of our head, it provides that clarity. We can see the things that are going around, and then we can take action around that. My understanding, guys are very much action-orientated, task-orientated doers. And so by getting things out of your head allows you to clear a path on how you can actually move forward from fatherhood to work to relationships. Just keep on journaling. Whatever's coming up, whatever's those recurring thoughts in your head, start with a question. How was my day? What was some of the things that I loved about the day? What were my challenges about today? What did I learn about today? Answering those questions every single day. Just try that just for 2 weeks. Just do a 2-week challenge of journaling every single day. It could be 1 sentence or 1 page or 10 pages. No right or wrong. There's no limit, but just get it out of your head and see what happens in the clarity that you get. 2-week challenge. I challenge you.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. I really appreciate that, Shorty. Mate, I love you. I love spending time with you. I love picking up the phone, just calling you up and telling you that you're awesome. Maybe I might add a little bit of salt onto that. Just a little bit of salt. But let's grab that for a second, right? I think our mateship has been founded on adventure and creating opportunities. 1 + 1 = 3. But it's been the little moments when we've had conversations about the most random of things, but sharing the magic. Sorry. But how important is that? Pick up the phone and just telling your mate that you love him. And just even sometimes I'll just call you up and say, mate, just ringing to let you know you're awesome. And I'll just hang up on you.
That's the best, right? Because it just puts a smile on my day for the rest. And you go, oh, was that cheeky bugger, right? And so they're the fun times when you can do that to one another, and you just go, oh yeah, he's got me, and that's the connection. And it's magic, absolutely magic.
Yeah, I love the little moments, and maybe one day we'll do a whole thing about moments in time where you can just create little bits of magic, and it's not overly hard. It's just a little bit of something. So, all right, mate. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me on the Good Men Project. You are one of the great men in my life. I really value having you. I hope everybody's enjoyed this and seen us pop up again. But more importantly, mate, I wish you the best with everything you do. You're a good man with a beautiful heart, and I just love having you in my life. So thank you.
Thanks, mate. Love you heaps.
All right. Take care, everybody. Hey, Shorty, guess what?
Where's that button?
Find the button.